The fantasy basketball playoffs are coming fast, even faster than the Goon Squad with that new Sydney Sweeney drop. So whether you're in first place or fighting your damn dick off to sneak into the playoffs, this video is for you. Today we're going to go over who's a must-add, who's just a streamer, and who's just a box score thirst trap that you absolutely should avoid. Welcome back to the channel, I'm Chris, and if you're new here and you like this video, make sure you hit that sub button. And again, I'm still fairly new at this, so any advice, comments, or hate mail is always appreciated. Okay, so first up in the main waiver wire section, we go with Moussa Diabate from the Charlotte Hornets. Now, he's the new starter in Charlotte, taking over from the Big Caulk. And I know if you look at his game log, you're probably saying, what the hell, Chris? These don't look like starters minutes at all. Well, if you look closer, Charlotte has been a part of a lot of blow-ups in the last month, depressing people's minutes or bumping up others like Caulk's minutes in garbage time. So Moussa, when he gets the minutes in a normal game, in a normal scenario, he's going to bring you down 10 boards in 25 minutes. He's going to shoot exceptionally well from the floor. He's at 73% from the field last week, for example. I don't think he's going to get to the free throw line enough to absolutely sabotage you in that category for you 9 category league guys. He's a great shot blocker. Charlotte is humming right now, and I think they are going to try and make a push for the play. And they've been so bad for so long. I think this is the year that they're going to try and get in that play lane for their fans and for that city. Now, all arrows are pointing up for Mr. Diabate, and I want him in all 12 league teams right now where he's available to close out the year. I think he's poised for a big finish, and I want him if he's out there. Next up, we have Jarris Walker, the former 8th overall pick by the Indiana Pacers. Walker's hasn't quite developed like I imagined the Pacers were hoping when they selected him in the 2023 NBA draft. In his lone season at Houston, the ACC Rookie of the Year was a solid scorer and a tenacious defender, averaging over 1 steal and 1 block per game. He has the build and the athleticism for it. The foundation is there, but his scoring touch just hasn't been consistent enough at the NBA level until maybe now. It looks like he's starting to get things together. He scored 12 plus points in 5 of his last 6 games with a high of 26. Walker is knocking down multiple 3-pointers per game and has started a little bit more comfortable on the offensive end, starting to get into a rhythm on the offensive end. I do still expect some horrendous shooting nights going forward, as his season-long field goal percentage is still at 39%, and you don't need me telling you just how crappy that is. But his situation, his role on this Pacers team should be safe, and really it should only get better. I think there is zero chance they're going to rest or shut him down to close out the year, which I can't say for sure about a bunch of other Pacers like Siakam and Nembhard and maybe Mathurin. They'll want to focus on developing Walker and see if there's a future for him as a Pacer, as he only has 1 more year left of team control. So his shot may not consistently fall, but as long as he continues to get after it on the defensive end with those stock contributions and crash the boards like we're talking about, it should give him a solid 4 for both category leagues and points leagues. And I think there is real potential again that we can see Walker close out this year with an even bigger role on this tanking Pacers squad. And where there's opportunity, there is potential. Don't forget about this guy. Okay, and last up, we're just going to do another 3-banger. I've been doing 3-bang waivers for the last few videos here, and we're kind of in a roll here with the Yahoo Most Added and some must-roster player segments. But the last guy up here is going to be Ace Bailey from the Utah Tankers. So it is a guy we have talked about a bunch this year. The rookie has been getting an extended look in his last 10 games. We're starting to see a glimpse of that defensive upside that made Bailey so dominant in college and such a tantalizing prospect. He still needs to get stronger and add some weight in the weight room to his frame to get built up for the strength in the NBA, but the potential is there. That's the most important thing. He's still mostly a scorer at this point in his career. The rebounding can be a little sporadic along with the defensive stats, but if the Utah Tankers start doing Utah Tankers things as we approach the end of the year, like resting George, Markkanen, and Big Nurch, Bailey could be looking at a 30-plus minute role per night to close it out. Bailey is averaging 17.1 points on 50% shooting, 4.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists across 31.3 minutes in his last 8, while holding down the starting small forward role. I understand the skepticism in adding Bailey. Looks like Utah is going to prioritize his development to close this season out, and if he can stabilize his shot selections and make improvements in the other aspects of his game, his fantasy floor will be greatly raised. And I can see this top 5 draft pick carving out a real nice role on this team and for for fantasy managers as we head into the fantasy basketball playoffs. Okay, now we're getting into the section again where I go over the Yahoo most added players from the last 2 days. So that'll be Thursday and Friday. Again, from Yahoo most added players. We're going to go over each one, top 10, say if I should pick them up, we should drop them, we should hold them, let your league mates voice to move. You know it. First up, we got Chris Middleton. Now, I'm hoping this is just for the revenge game bump on Thursday when they were playing the Bucks, but in his defense, not to like totally shit on his parade, but he had been playing some somewhat decent basketball in 4 of his last 5. Chris with a K really has no long-term value whatsoever, though. He's either getting traded and it's going to be a depth piece on a contending squad, or he's getting shut down by the time fantasy playoffs roll around if he stays in Washington. We don't need this, boys. Okay, we'll stay in DC with our next guy, Bilal Coulibaly. Now, when healthy, I've liked him as a top 100 player for 9-cat leagues. He just hasn't been able to consistently stay on the court. I love his stock upside and the floor it gives him for both category leagues and point leagues any given night. In 12-team leagues, this guy should just be rostered because he's averaging over 1.5 steals and 1 block per night. Like in a 9-cat league, this guy can't be floating on your wire if you need those stock contributions. Okay, we'll head on over to Milwaukee, the Bucks, with our next most added player from Yahoo, and that's Kyle Kuzma. Now, when his shot is falling and when he's engaged in the game, hunting for rebounds, and the usage is there, Kuzma can return solid nightly lines. And yes, I know that is a lot of things that have to be right for him to be useful. And honestly, there just hasn't been enough consistent usage for Kuzma on the Bucks this year to return consistent performances. His name is linked in trade packages involving Giannis, so if he gets moved or even if he stays put and is getting 30 plus minutes per night for an injury-riddled Bucks team right now, there are most certainly worse players that you could take a leap of faith on in 12 league teams if you have an open spot or you just want to swing turning a streamer spot into a longer term hold. The next bad boy we got is Bruce Brown. So with the Nuggets being one of the teams to close out the week with 3 games left, Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday, I understand the logic for the stream. I assume that's why he got added a lot on Thursday. But this is all that is, boys. It's just a stream. We are really not squeezing any rest of season value out of Bruce Wayne at all. Jokic is about to be back soon, so you can enjoy the 3 games to close out the week. Hopefully you stream it for the categories you need and he returns that value. But then that's it. Next up, we have the McCain hash brown, Jared McCain from the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, he is also one of the greatest NBA TikTokers of all time. And I think this is the first time that I've actually mentioned his name this year after he impressed as a rookie. But mind you, a lot has changed since then. Mainly the Sixers are healthy and Mr. VJ has just took his job while McCain was out with a thumb injury to begin the year. Now McCain has had 2 solid games back to back, so I can see optimism for the ad. He's flashed that potential we saw as a rookie. There are just way too many cooks in the kitchen in Philly for him to ever carve out a reasonable enough role to be consistent for fantasy purposes. You can stream him when guys are sitting or out for Philly. It will happen often with Embiid and Paul George, but otherwise, if you're holding this guy for any sort of rest of season value, you're going to be disappointed most nights, like my buddy Mark's old lady. Next up, we have Trey Johnson from the Washington Wizards. So we have talked a lot about Trey recently, and he should be rostered for 12-team leagues. I like what he brings as a score for that young Washington Wizards squad. The rookie seems to be getting more confident each game, and the coaching staff is giving him more of a green light from deep. You really like to see some more consistent defensive stats. He was close to a steal per game for the Texas Longhorns in his lone collegiate season, so I know he can get after it with that 6'5" frame. It might not happen this year, but that and the playmaking will be the next steps that he needs to do to take his fantasy game to the next level. Now, I did see that he injured his ankle in Thursday's game. I don't know how bad it looked or anything like that. So for anyone rostering him or potentially thinking about picking him up if he is floating around on your wire, just stay tuned, see for an update, see how bad it is, and then go from there. We'll keep going with Fettuccine Alfredo. Now, he has been getting some juice with Hero out and Ware missing time for that Miami Heat squad. He's mostly a 3-point specialist, but he can fall into a lot of rebounds. The minutes still aren't consistently over 20 per game, even with those injuries. So he's really hard to trust on a nightly basis as the assists and stocks are practically nothing. I don't mind the stream right now if you need threes, with Miami being one of those teams with 3 games in the next 4 days to close out the week as well. But I really don't see any path for rest of season value here for Fettuccine unless something crazy happens at the deadline. He's like a worse version of a Sam Hauser stream in my mind. Okay, we're going to keep going with Eve Misi. Now, if you're in need of boards and blocks, I don't mind the ad. He'll be very limited on points, and the season-long free throw percentage isn't as bad as it really seems, as he barely gets up any free throws per game, so it's not going to be enough volume to really swing your matchup either way in a 9-category league. I really don't think we're going to have consistent value here. The Pelicans are a mess, and with Queen soaking up a lot of that usage, the path to getting 30+ minutes per night just isn't viable. Honestly, with both him and Queen in the mid-20s for minutes, it kind of just cucks both their values and prevents them both from being must-start players right now. Next up, we got the Mood Man, Moses Moody from the Golden State Warriors. Now, Moody has laced it in 2 of his last 3 games, but we all know now, if your name isn't Steph Curry, you can't really be trusted in Steve Kerr's rotation at all. Even still, if we're just guaranteed 30 minutes per night, which is anything but a guarantee, Moody's is mostly just a threes and points guy with a sprinkle of other stats. If his shot isn't falling and he ain't moving oceans, he has no counting stats to resemble anything of a floor for points or category leagues, and we just don't need to chase it. But I don't mind the occasional stream if you're in need of threes or points. Isaiah Collier is the next guy up, and we've talked about Bailey in the main section, and a lot of that can be said for Collier too, about Utah doing Utah tankers things. George could get more rest days down the stretch. Collier could get an extended run, and we've seen it this year in little sample size. He's a great facilitator. He'll most likely be a double digits points guys, a couple of boards, and he won't destroy your field goal percentage. The no threes does really suck from the guard position, and the turnovers can be hectic if you're in a 9-category league, but the assists are far and few in between that you can find on the waiver wire. It's so hard to get assists on the waiver wire at this point in time, so I like the upside here for silly season, and the fact that he can be useful, or at least somewhat useful in 12-team leagues right now, only helps his cause. And then last up, we're going to double these up. So Ty Jerome and Scottie Pippen Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies. So it seems like both are finally going to get back to the court fairly soon, even though I thought both were on like completely different injury timelines. So I don't understand that. But regardless, I like the idea of chasing one if they can carve out a lead role if Morant gets moved, or they can carve out that secondary role behind him. I think the biggest thing here, though, is that when they're back, it will make Cam Spencer pretty much unrosterable. There will just be way too many guys ahead of him for him to be able to be an impact player down the stretch. If I had to choose one between Jerome and Scottie Pippen Jr., I think I'm going Jerome just because Memphis did go out and sign him, but both are coming back from lengthy absences. Don't forget, lengthy injuries. So it is kind of tough to see either being must start guys right out of the gate. Keep your eye on them, see if anyone carves out a large role behind Morant, or if Morant gets moved, see if anyone can take that league dog role and just go from there. Okay, now I just want to go over some must roster players that I have seen that have been added or still floating around in some leagues. So first up, we're going to go with Bobby Portis, Mr. Bobby. Now the vet off Milwaukee's had a real tough start to the year in October and November, but Giannis's injuries have opened the door for him to get more consistent playing time and usage. And really since December, if we look at it, he's been awesome more times than not. We will see what happens at the deadline if they move on from Giannis and which players will be coming or going. And again, it's impossible to predict, so we can't really base any moves based off what will happen at the deadline. But Portis is set up to eat regardless, with Giannis still expected to miss multiple weeks with an injury, a calf injury now. Now, he's not going to blow you away on a nightly basis, even though some guys may like that. But he's going to give you solid end-of-the-roster production in 12-team leagues. That just can't be ignored. Next up, we have Jalen Smith. Now, we'll have to see how serious his calf injury is that he injured on Thursday. He left the game, didn't return. He's being listed as questionable for their game on Saturdays, but the goggles has been producing, man. Even with Vooch still in the picture, I'm becoming less and less confident that Chicago actually does the right thing and trades Vooch away. But if the calf is fine, and regardless of what happens around the deadline, Smith is still producing, and he's just that lottery ticket. If Vooch does get moved, Smith could be primed to have a monster 5 to 6 weeks to close out the year. And then the next up, who I think should just be a must roster, is Grayson Allen. Now, throughout his career, when he consistently gets 30 plus minutes per night, Allen has been an impactful player for fantasy basketball. Jalen Green was out. I think he's back tonight on Friday, but Booker's still missing time with an ankle injury. The three balls signals will be flowing, and I like his floor with his rebounding and assist potential as a must-roster guy for 12 league teams to close out the year. Next up, we got Jalen Tyson from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, the absence of Darius Garland and Sam Merrill really slapped Tyson out of that mini slump that we saw him have there about a month ago. Now, we'll see what happens when Garland returns and Merrill is fully worked back in, but they need another starter with Evan Mobley sideline, so I think the good ball continues from Tyson, who can legit make impacts in multiple different categories for 9-cat and gives you a safe floor for points league. He needs to be rostered in 12-team leagues. And then last up is a must-roster guy who a lot of people were hating on and really still don't like his real-life game, but that's Saddiq Bey. Now, Bey has been absolutely balling out lately for fantasy basketball and potentially playing the best basketball of his season right now. He's scoring, he's getting to the line, he's rebounding, he's being active on the defensive end with steals. Even with the Pelicans relatively healthy now, with Jones and Big Z back in the mix, his shot totals haven't really decreased at all. They've stayed constant. Bey is just giving you way too much production to be left on any wire right now. Maybe it changes at the deadline. He's kind of playing himself into the conversation to get moved, but you can worry about that later.
It's time for Number to Sports Weekly Waiver Wire Recap. Is he going to hit himself in the not-so-torpedo of beer? Let's find out if he fucked you over last week with his weekly recommendations.
Okay, so now it's time for the recap, my previous waiver video from last week. And first up, we had Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I specifically said we only want to go out and add him or stash him if we don't think that knee injury was going to be serious. They said it's a bone bruise, and they're going to reevaluate him in the next coming days. So I have no idea what that means as the NBA. It's just ridiculous. So nothing really to update there. You could potentially still hold him if you have room. He might get moved at the deadline. I know his name's linked in all those Giannis mock trades that you see with the Bucks, but if you don't have space and you need to make moves now to get into playoffs, you can feel free cutting him, because you can't just hold a guy burning your roster spot when you have no idea what his update is or he is potentially getting moved. And then the next guy we had is Bubba Carrington from the Washington Wizards. Now, I've really enjoyed his production. I think he's playing well. He's scoring, he's assisting, he's grabbing some boards, and he's getting some swipes. Now, he can be really hard to roster in 9-cat leagues for some terrible field goal percentage some nights and the turnovers, so he's definitely better suited for a punt field goal percentage build and a turnover punt build if you're in 9-cat. But I love his floor for points leagues. I think he could have still potential for another boost as they close out the year if they shut down Middleton, get rid of Middleton, or Trae Young never makes it back to the court and they start giving him real run again, like we've seen last year to close out the year with 30 plus minutes per night and just everything flowing through him. So I still like him as a hold for 12-team leagues, and I still think he's a solid pickup if he's still floating around on your wire and you need assists. And then last up, we had Jordan Miller from the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, he was really eating when Kawhi missed some games, but I still like him. He's carving out a nice secondary role. He has a decent defensive floor for him. You probably aren't going to see those juicy stat lines when Leonard is playing. He was knocked out of the rotation tonight, so I'll be curious to see what happened against the Nuggets. I haven't seen a second of that game, so if that continues, he's definitely going to be a real soft hold, and you probably will want to move on for him. But I want to see one more game just to see if this is a one-off because of the matchup, and then we can make a decision going forward. Not the greatest, not the best, and Kuminga probably doesn't count because I did say it was contingent on what the news was around his injury. Jordan Miller didn't have the greatest week, but I think he was still solid. But you know what? It's been so long. Let's get a punishment, baby, along with the torpedo. Alright, boys, but I think that's it for this video. Again, if you're still watching and you aren't sub, hit that button, hit that thumbs up, hype it if you're on mobile, send a comment down below. I'll try to respond to every single one, every video. It's honestly probably my favorite part about making these videos. It's just shooting the shit about fantasy basketball with you guys in the comments section. But as always, have a good rest of your weekend, week, day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you guys real soon.